A mother whose son was gunned down by armed police stopped the inquiry into his death today to ask the officer who shot him, "How many more lies are you going to tell?" Susan Alexander then stormed out. Her son, Azelle Rodney, was killed in Edgware 7 years ago. From the inquiry, Ronke Phillips reports.
The dramatic recording of the moment 3 police vehicles perform what's known as a hard stop on the car Azelle Rodney was travelling in. Almost simultaneously, the thud of shots. The officer, known only as Echo 7, had fired 8 times. The firearms officer today told the hearing he felt he had no choice but to open fire. Azelle Rodney, who was sitting in the back seat, was hit 6 times and died instantly. The officer then described how he smashed the rear window of the vehicle with the butt of his weapon. As he did so, another officer leaned into the car and pulled Azelle Rodney up into a sitting position. Echo 7 said he then saw 2 large bullet wounds to the top of Azelle Rodney's head. At this point, he had to pause to compose himself. The officer then continued to give his account. He said, "I've been in this situation before." He then said sorry before pausing again. At this point, Azelle Rodney's mother, Susan Alexander, said loudly, "How many more lies are you going to tell?" When the officer was asked if he needed a glass of water before continuing, she interrupted again, saying, "Do you feel sorry for him?" Mrs. Alexander and other members of her family then stormed out of the hearing. Earlier, it had emerged that the same officer had shot 2 other people dead during an undercover operation in the 1980s on a gang who were suspected of being about to stage a wages snatch. Inquests into the men's death ruled they'd been unlawfully killed. Today, E7 admitted he didn't shout a warning before shooting Azelle Rodney because he said there was not time. He insisted he opened fire because he was concerned the men had a submachine gun. He said, "I'm as convinced today as I was on the day that Azelle Rodney had a gun in his hands. It was everything about his body language that he'd picked up a firearm and was prepared to use it." Protesters who stood outside the building accused the police of a cover-up. Susan Alexander, who's been at almost every day of the hearing into her son's killing since it started in early September, left the inquiry without commenting. Ronke Phillips, London Tonight, Holborn.